Jai Hare Krishna. Heute lesen wir aus der Bhagavad Gita, wie sie ist.
Oder du machst es in Englisch. Wie viele Sprachzeiten, wie viele Sprachzeiten? How many does it speak English? Russisch. Alle sprechen Englisch? So, wer macht das in Englisch?
Sprechen alle Englisch.
Ja, es ist ja, wie viele sitzen. Und wie viele sitzen?
Deutsch.
So you will talk on your
So right now it depends. If here someone doesn't speak English, then I will do it in German, actually. So if everyone does speak English, then I will try to do it in English.
Ja, so machen wir das.
English.
Und einer muss dann übersetzen für Sie und Russisch. Achso, das spricht auch Englisch. Ja, super. Ja, eigentlich. Alles klar. So, ich glaube.
I have to be careful with this one, because it's not really complete. Okay, alright. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I prepared everything in German, but today we read in English. So this is the chapter 15 and text 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. And this is how it sounds in Sanskrit. Sarvasya chaham hridisane vishto matas smriti jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarva aham eva vedyo vedanta grit veda videva chaham. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the complier of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Purport. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge to the Supreme Personality. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus God is all good, God is all merciful. Antaha pravishtaha shasta jnanam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does the living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yosau sarvair vidair giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Purans, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, the discussion of the Vedic philosophy and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 114 confirms this in the following words: Tattu samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. Once more, the translation. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Hakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye, Manchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Padaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Nami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshata Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna everyone, welcome. So, it will be a little bit freestyle. So, I'm not perfect at all in English. I forget everything in German, so all that I have, what I wanted to say is actually German, but I will try to give it in English. And also sorry for my voice today. I'm still a little bit cold, so I will give my best. The topic of today's lecture will be consciousness. So, Prabhupada in his purport, he says that Krishna gives us intelligence. So, they require intelligence, but the question is what for? So, he says for understanding. So for learning to know Krishna and to understand Krishna. If we have this goal, then Krishna himself will give us the intelligence for this. So this is the first point. So we have to keep it in mind through the whole lecture. And what is intelligence? So we have to understand first of all what is intelligence. So what kind of tool, what kind of instrument is this Krishna gives to us? It's not like a person is intelligent and he knows everything. Some persons in very critical moments forget things. So also me. So we forget everything. But somehow Krishna gives us intelligence and we remember. And we know things. So we have to understand which role plays the intelligence in our body. Not in this physical body, but also in the subtle body. So this is just a remembering of what everyone knows or what everyone should know. So in the Eastern world, maybe everyone is aware of this, but in the Western world, so we cannot clearly distinguish between the physical body and the mental body or something like that. So we think that the source of the mental body is the physical body, but it's not the fact. So this we learn in some chapters from the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedas. But so first of all, so we have this physical body. We clearly can see it. We have arms, we have legs, we have our head. So we think that there somewhere inside is some brain which can think and so on. But also behind this, so our projection. So what is our projection? Is our projections what is inside, or are we our projection of some other things? I sometimes compare it to computers. So we have computers, we have this hardware, and we have this software. And the projections, what we see on the screen, is not the projection of the hardware in some kind, but it's actually the software what you see. And also the same for us. So the projection, so our physical body is just a projection of our subtle body. And what does it consist of? So this subtle body. First of all, we have the senses. So we can perceive this world. We can see it, or we can smell it, we can taste it, we can touch it, and we can hear it. So these are the senses. So this is how we communicate. This is how we communicate with this world. So by seeing something, we can read something, If we cannot see, we have to hear something. If we cannot see and we cannot hear, then it will get really difficult to get any information. So the senses are really critical. So the next one is the one who has to control the senses. Because senses are out of control. They look anywhere, they look everywhere. Then they start to smell everything and to eat everything. This is not that good, to taste everything. It's like a dog or a cat. So if we are controlled by our senses, or if we see some dogs or cats, these living beings are controlled by the senses. So people normally are different from normally we are different from cats and dogs. And this is because we have our mind. So this is manas. So this is the controller of the senses. And we have to understand that this is also some kind of instrument which we use. It's not that we are the mind. It's some kind of instrument. And this instrument was given. It's a gift. In some way, so the demigod, Chandra, so the demigod of the moon, controls our mind. So that's why our mind is it's fluctuating. So in German it's called like launisch, you know. This word launisch comes from Luna, so somehow a little bit, yeah. And in the English I learned somewhere long ago, so we have our mood, which is really some kind like moon. So this comes from very, very past. So as people just compile these languages, so to say, then they took this mood from moon, because we are really, you can also say lunatic, but lunatic is really crazy. It's not that very stable person. Okay, so but this is also part of the highest personality of Godhead. His name is Aniruddha. This is energy of God. This is an incarnation of God. So this is his energy. So our mind is an energy of God. We have to be clear, we have to really realize it. We are not this mind, we just use it, we try to use it. And this is God who gives us the permission to do it. So then we come to the highest step. So we have the senses, we have the control of the senses, the mind, and then we come to the highest step, the intelligence. So because the mind is uncontrolled, so it can come to the idea to do everything. Is really fast, is the fastest computer in this world. Is really fast, and his arguments are really great. He can give you an argument for anything. It's a really strong logic behind it. And we have to control it. So we need a further tool to control the mind. And this mind is called intelligence, also in Sanskrit Buddha. And the function is to control the mind. So also there's a demigod who controls it. So this is actually a planet, also a planet, Mercury. Is also in Sanskrit, it's called Buddha. Mind is Mercury, intelligence. Intelligence is Mercury, mind is Chandra, it's controlled by Chandra, and the intelligence is controlled by Mercury, by Buddha. Because these two are really fast. So you can understand. So in the astronomy you can understand. So Moon rotates really fast, and the next fastest is Mercury. It's also really, it has to be behind this Moon. But sometimes it happens that he cannot catch the mind. That's why we have to train our intelligence. And another personality of God, so another incarnation is Pradyumna. So this is the controller, so this is the incarnation of the highest personality of Godhead, God's energy, who controls, or who gives the permission, who controls the intelligence. So what is intelligence? We can think about it. What is intelligence? Intelligence is controlling the mind. Mind perceives things, or let us say the senses perceive things. The mind performs some calculations, so to say, and then the intelligence has to decide what to do, because the mind cannot decide. The mind gives only some arguments, some information, and so on and so on and so on, and then the intelligence has to decide. And then if our intelligence is trained, like our muscles, we train our muscles to lift some weights, and in the same way we have to train our intelligence. And if our intelligence is trained, then we can do some really good decisions. If it's not trained, then we do some bad decisions in certain situations. So the next entity in our subtle body, so we are still in the subtle body, is called, sometimes it's called the false ego, but today I'll try to tell you this is not false, it's just ego. Just ego, in Sanskrit it's called ahankara or ahamkara. So the function of the false ego is really interesting. This is the identification. So we have to identify ourselves with something. If we don't, so what are we doing here? So if you don't self-identify, I cannot tell it, so that I am 35 years old or something, that I'm a chemist or something, I don't know, that I played some volleyball a couple of years, and I actually, and I will not be able to recognize every one of you. Because if you don't self-identify yourself with a certain idea, and you don't live this idea, you don't represent this idea, then we cannot get a clue about the person. So somehow we represent kind of idea, we self-identify us with some idea. And this is the function. So I'm male, 35 years old, I have a job, I have a family. This is all of my self-identifications. Wife, daughters, and so on and so on. I'm 180 or something in height, and so on kilos in weight. And then I see all this data, and then I think, oh yes, this is me. I live in a certain street, in a certain town, a certain country, and so all of this data is about me. And then I think, this is me. So this is the function. So who's the controller or the demigod? The demigod is Shiva himself. But so in the spiritual energy is Sankarsana. This is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is also God energy. It's not really us. It's also an instrument, also a tool. So we just use it to self-identify ourselves with something. It's not us. Still not us. Okay. And here, so the subtle level ends. Yeah, so then we go to the next level, to the spiritual level. And above this, we have the soul. And the characteristics, or the certain characteristic of the soul. So what is the question to the audience? What is the characteristic of the soul? Consciousness, yes, this is true. So it's all over the Prabhupada's books. He tells, yeah, well, but the first one is consciousness, actually, and then we can say it's eternal, this is all-knowing, and so on and so on. But somehow we are not all-knowing. But we have this consciousness. The consciousness penetrates our body. We can feel our body on every point. Yeah? And this is the consciousness. The consciousness in the mixture of all of these subtle energies. So this is our interesting tools, our instrument, what we have. And we have this consciousness where we can gather all of the information at the same time. Yes?
Can I just ask, possible that some persons don't have this consciousness somehow, because I can see this consciousness, that person, and then I cannot say that I'm conscious, how to say, I'm learning to become conscious. I'm not conscious so much.
You can keep
it. Is it okay. Just to clarify? Is this just different quality, different characteristic of the same consciousness?
So you can keep this.
Different.
You can keep this question until the end. Maybe the question will be answered through the lecture.
Okay.
Yeah. So we will see. But keep this. I will keep it in mind. I will try. Maybe in some point. However, the consciousness, so the Sanskrit is also Chaitana. So this is the Sanskrit word. So this is the penetration of all of this body. And this is limited. So for every person, so for every soul, this consciousness is limited to this certain body. Nothing else. So I don't have any consciousness in any other body of you. So, of all of you. So my consciousness is totally limited to this body. Yeah. And this is actually, so this consciousness is also an instrument. It sounds somehow strange, but it's also an instrument. And there is a certain incarnation of God who's behind it. It's Vasudeva. Yeah. So this is really amazing. So when we think, okay, at the end, at the really end, when we are not the mind, not the intelligence, not the ego, nothing like that, so we think that we are this consciousness. And the question is totally right. What kind of consciousness? Yeah? What kind of consciousness are we? We just use this. It's just a tool. We have this consciousness for this body. So if we change this body to another kind of body, how will be the consciousness? So if we look at a tree or at a plant, there's also consciousness inside, totally different, limited. You can cut it. It will not cry something. No? It's totally different consciousness. And this is regulated by an energy of Supreme Person. Yeah. So, and above this, all of you know, sure all of you know, there's the Super Soul. Yeah. Or also called the Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. So, as we learned from the text today, and here we are actually by the text of today. So by 55, he lives in our heart. And what he does is interesting. When we think that we wake up in the morning, brush our teeth, wash our face, do anything, we eat, yeah, we go to work, and we have rest, so we think that we maintain this body. We don't. So in this understanding, somehow we do, but actually we don't, because I cannot control my heartbeat. I cannot control the temperature of my body. Actually, I can put something inside, yeah, and see how it reacts, or how my body reacts. But I cannot control anything. So sometimes I cannot even control my hand or my arms. When I sleep, then my hand or my arm gets numb. One time it happened, it was really amazing. I woke up and I turned to the side and I didn't feel my arm. And then I smashed it on the bed, on the corner of the bed. I smashed it really, it was so loud. It was so loud. I thought in this moment, so my arm is broken. What will I do? What will I do? At least I will have some pain in the morning when I wake up. And then next morning, I woke up and I saw there's nothing not even a color or something like that. Nothing. There was nothing. I was thinking, what's going on? It's not natural. If I do it like this right now, there will be a reaction. So maybe I'll shout loud and my face will be totally different from pain. Yeah, but in this certain night, nothing happened. So strange things are happening. And then actually I woke up because of this loud sound, and I still didn't feel my arm, and I was thinking, what is it? What's going on? And then I smashed it once again with full consciousness because I didn't feel my arm. I tried it once again. And then I thought, okay, there should be a reaction because I didn't feel it. It was interesting for me. So I'm a chemist, I like experiments. Yeah. So loud noise from smashing the arm, and then I thought, I don't feel any pain. This is so funny. This is so funny. Chemists do experiments at least twice. They reproduce to be sure that it's true. And then in full consciousness, I smashed it once again. So I took it like this, and then I smashed it once again. Nothing happened, I was amazed. But I wanted to sleep, and then I fell asleep, and I thought, okay, whatever happens next day, you will see. Nothing happened. So, strange story. My personal experience, but how do we understand? What is this body? I don't control. I can smash it sometimes in the night and nothing happens. Strange. So it's not me. So this body is not controlled. So it's just an instrument. And the super soul maintains all of this, reactions. So there are so many different reactions right now in this body, and so this body produces and wastes stuff in minutes and seconds. Different reactions. So I had colleagues who are biochemists, and they had all these nice maps on the wall, just really nice maps, and then they said, oh, this map and this one, really big maps with really small letters and so on, and arrows and connections and all of this stuff, and they say, all of this stuff is happening in your body. And I was like, whoa. And I was sure, there's much more. There's much more. Then you show me here, there's even much more. Because you showed me only the biochemical reactions. And there's so many different reactions, physical, so for physics, and also some cannot count right now. But we will not go deeper in this. We will have to go back to our text, to our topic. So the intelligence and the consciousness. So how is this intelligence to understand? So I told that we have the decision. So we have some decisions to make, if it's good or bad. So we have an example with the medicine. If we are ill, then we have to take some medicine or something, and then we maybe will get healthy once again. But this medicine is not tasty. So we take this medicine, and then our taste says it's not tasty, it's bitter, something, and so the sense says it's bitter, or hurt or something, whatever. So, and then our mind says, oh, I don't like it. Some people like it, some don't. For everyone it's really individual. And so for me it's not tasty, I don't like it. And then if I would go with my mind, I will say, so I don't like it, I won't take it, I will still be ill and see what happens. But then the intelligence, just a click, says, you have to, then you will suffer less, hopefully. So, and then I take it because I obey to my intelligence. I want to get healthy once again. So this is the function once again of the intelligence. And we can see, so the intelligence decides if our goals or targets which we set, if these targets are realistic, or if we, if it's in our bigger plan, so to say. Yeah. So this intelligence will decide if this will work or not. But who's defining the goals and the targets? So this is the ego, once again. Yeah, the ego defines. So what do I want? And sometimes people say it's false ego. Why false ego? What is it, false ego? Right and wrong. Right and wrong. Because we are in this materialistic. So we are in this material world, yeah, and we have this duality, right and wrong. Yeah. But actually, this is energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. And we know that in the spiritual world there is no duality. So this duality comes only in this material world. And that's why we can call it only ego. Because our ego helps. How does the ego helps? Who knows the answer of this question? Why do we need this ego?
Because we are individual.
And so everyone is individual. This is okay. But how does it help in our daily life? What's the function? So we know that we are individuals.
I'm just repeating what I learned from Srila Prabhupada. I am eternal servant of Krishna. That's why it is important to know why.
This is the spiritual level, and we go down to the material level right now. Yes, please.
Maybe to assume our daily responsibilities.
We can't express our free willing to serve. If we haven't got ego, we'll be just a robot.
So, so service. You mean the service for Krishna?
No, of course.
For persons, for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is same. This is the same. We have these responsibilities without the false ego. So, for example, for me and for all of us, if you have children, without this false ego, without the wrong self-identification that you are a parent. Your father and mother, you cannot play this role. If you wouldn't have this ego, you couldn't play this role. You would say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm the spiritual soul. And you kids and your wife, husband, you can... I'm not like with you, so we're not a family. I'm spiritual, I'm with Krishna, and you're someone else. I don't know you. This is totally wrong. Krishna doesn't like it, actually. So in the 18th chapter, Krishna clearly says, so if you have responsibilities, you have to follow your responsibilities. This is my opinion, he says. Maybe we can read, but I will do it later. Yeah, okay, so we have these different levels of self-identification. Sometimes it's really funny. Some people think they have this body and they do everything to maintain this body. In a couple of years, this body is nothing worth. It's just destroyed at the end. So these people get disappointed really fast. Sometimes they think they are the senses. They do everything to enjoy, to have some fun with the senses and so on. So they like eating and, I don't know, hearing music. Sometimes music can get really spiritual. But to hear anything, I have the sense, I have to use it. Yeah, I have the sense of touching, I have to touch everything. They go and touch and eat and smell and so on and so on and so on. But it's not that often with humans. And some people think they are this mind, and then they have to know everything, to have information more and more and more, and they're just speculations and so on. What is this world about? So I was in the class, so in school, in philosophy, the first question was, why is anything or something and not nothing? I was thinking, wow, nice question, great philosophy. Let's try 1 year, 2 years, and still the question remains: why is nothing, or why is anything or something and not nothing? But actually, it's stupid. There is something. Yeah, there is something. You have to work with this. You shouldn't ask yourself about this is Maya. This is totally Maya. Yeah? So this is totally an illusion. When you ask yourself, why is nothing? I want to be nothing. Because I don't like this. I like something else. I like nothing. Yeah? This is not good. People who are on the level of intelligence, so these people are achievers. I would say these people are real achievers. So they have certain goals, they know how to reach these goals, they do everything, they have the tools, the instruments, the right decisions, and then they achieve everything. But also these people can get disappointed somewhere when they reached any goal, and then they say, I don't have any goal, what should I do? So, how can we decide who we are? This is the ego. This is the ego. This is a tool. Once again, this is not us. This is just an instrument which we use to decide who we are. And then we have this decision: body, mind, senses, intelligence, whatever. And if we don't know better, we look to the Vedic scriptures or some holy literature, and then we learn something about the soul, but you cannot measure the soul. You can try to measure the mind, you can try to measure the intelligence, but you cannot measure the soul. It's not measurable. And there we have to go back. For someone it's like going back. For people from India it's like going back to the Bhagavad Gita. For us in the Western world it's big step forward. A really big step forward. Because as I started to ask myself who I am, as I was on this so uncertain point. So I'm a scientist, I want to know who I am. And then I started to ask myself, so I learned everything about this body. I was like a real scientist, so I thought, so what my body contains of, I have to eat. Yeah. So all of this amino acids and stuff, and fats and so on, and then this scientific opinion on this, yeah, you have to eat this and this and this, so much fish, so much meat, and so much eggs, and so on and so on and so on, all of this stuff. And I was also a sportsman, so I did a lot of workout every day, all the day. So, and big muscles, and I thought I have to maintain this somehow. I need the amino acids, I need this and that. But one day I decided what will happen. And once again, this is chemistry. So this is the mindset of chemist. I decided, what is with the false experiment? So you will not eat all of this stuff. What will happen? You just eat vegetables and fruits, raw, totally raw, nothing more. So we're not even a vegan style, so we're vegetarians, but so you eat raw material. What is it called in English? How do people? It's fruitarian. Yeah, you can call it fruitarian. Yeah, this is true. You can call it fruitarian. It was in the summer. It was good. So a lot of fruits and vegetables, really fresh. So my question was, what will happen? Will I lose weight? Will I lose my consciousness through the day? Then I did this experiment. After, you need a long time, as a chemist you know, you need a long time experiment, so this stability study, so to say. Yeah, I did a stability study on my body. After 2 months, I thought it would be okay. I was in the gym and I thought, well, okay, let's give it a try, let's test something. I lifted the weights much more than before. I was running Shri Shri Gonitai. So all of my workout got better, much better. So I couldn't dream of it. I got healthier and so on. I could run for miles and miles, and I would run even more. I just was limited on time, because I had to do my studies. But this was amazing. This was amazing. I could run faster, and then I thought, well, actually, I didn't know anything, so I didn't know about Krishna and Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada and the books and so on. I was like, I didn't know that I have these two different things, like mind and intelligence, but at this time I used my intelligence, and I said, well, okay, you will do it for the rest of your life, because it's good, because it's just good. And then somehow everything came to the point that after certain years I was atheistic. I was a really atheistic person. I could convince everyone by pure logic that God doesn't exist. And I tried it every day. It was stupid. Okay. But however, it's just a couple of years, or not years, couple of months later, I learned about that there's something more, there's not this pure matter and so on. And there should be something more. And then I took the Bible, and I wanted to know who I am. I took the Bible, and there was no real answer. There's just some really good teachings. And then I took the Quran, and I thought, maybe there's something more. I learned this the same like in the Bible. I was somehow disappointed, but also really surprised. And then somehow I learned the Krishna consciousness by accident. Really by accident. I was in the car with my brother-in-law, and he showed me a CD and he said, okay, just listen. I listened and I was like, whoa, this is serious. This is really serious. I came back home and I listened for hours. 6 hours, 8 hours every day. I had really much free time, so a lot of free time I could afford. And also my wife, she also liked it. Yeah. And then maybe a couple of months later I learned already Krishna consciousness. Before this was Vedic knowledge, and then I learned Krishna consciousness. And then, so the answer to the question, who we are, I found in the Bhagavad Gita, and I still read it, and this is really interesting. So maybe we can give it a try and just listen to the opinion of Sri Krishna, what he says about the soul in the Bhagavad Gita, if we have the right pages, so we will find it. So it's directly in the 2nd chapter. I took a note. Yeah, this is like 2:13. There it starts. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Nice to know. Really, really nice to know. Because then you should not be afraid of anything. Because you will get a different body at the end. However, you will not stop existing. Next. O son of Kunti, the not permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Yeah? Good knowledge. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by the happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Next one. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, so the non-existent material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So this is actually enough. So we can get to 225, but this is enough. So the next question what we have is, what can I do with this information, with this knowledge? So, and this we find also the answer starts also in the same chapter. The second chapter is the conclusion. Is the conclusion of the, not the conclusion, but it's the summary. It's a better word. It's the right word. This is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. You can come back to it again and again and read it, and you will learn more and more. So the next one is 244. So we have the interesting information from Krishna himself, what you can do. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So there he speaks about the devotional service. This is the main part, devotional service. What is it? What is devotional service? This is really interesting. Next one I would like to read is 250. So actually we had to read with the purport, but we are short on time. And that's why I will read only the translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Service rids himself. Therefore strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. So this is the purpose. So Krishna gives us the knowledge and the key. He gives us everything. So he gives us the knowledge about ourselves, who we really are, and he also gives us the instrument. What should we do? It's on us actually to decide. So the decision is ours. That's why we have to train. We have to understand who Krishna is, who we are, and what is the connection between us, between everyone here. So at this stage I would like to end and open for your questions and comments and so on. Hare Krishna.
I have a question. I have two questions. One of them, you said some demigods control our senses and our mind. Is it true, yeah?
Maybe I said this, yeah.
And if we decided something to do or make decisions, we think this we control our actions. And my question is, what is our part in this? Who is really control? And I mean, control is Krishna, but which is our part in these actions?
I know what you mean. So,
these decisions.
So that's why I mentioned the 18th chapter. By the way, I like this chapter really, really much, but I have to find the right passage where I can read. So there Krishna speaks directly about how this happens. No, this is not here. This is maybe, I think it's 1840. Yeah, it's 1840. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. We have 5 factors of action. So the place of the action of the body, so this is what acts. The performer, so this is the performer. The various senses, because we have to perceive, we have to get some information. The many different kinds of endeavor, so we have really big ideas and so on, and we have to be active. Yeah. And then, if it happens or not, the super soul decides. If it happens or not, it's interesting. Sometimes it depends on the endeavor, and so on. So he said in the next, 1815, he says, Krishna says, whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind or speech is caused by the 5 factors. Whatever. It's not my opinion. It's just what I'm reading. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Yeah. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill. It's a really strong example. Nor he is bound by his actions. So at the end, many different factors, but these 5 factors. We think that's because our mind is actually our mind. It's actually our mind that thinks, oh, this and this and this and this and that and so on and so on and so on, which decision to make, and then our intelligence. But at the end, the super soul decides. It gives us the allowance or disallowance. It gives us actually everything. So that's why I said, who's the real controller of everything? That's the super soul. We have some wishes. The super soul fulfills our wishes, but actually it depends on our karma, good karma, bad karma, and so on. So, if you get the allowance or not, or to a certain measure. I want money. I really want money. I need money. I want millions of euros and so on. But in the end, maybe you can get 2 euros. Yeah, your wish will come true, but a certain measure.
Thank you very much.
Hare.
And the second one?
Yeah, sure.
It's a very small question. I'm not sure I understood this moment with our consciousness will be changed from body to body or not? I didn't understand this one. If
you get a body of a tree, sure, it will be limited. So the personality will be the same, so you'll still be you, but you cannot perceive yourself. You cannot realize. You cannot realize that this is you. It's a consciousness of being asleep, in a deep sleep. If you're in consciousness in the body of an animal, it's waking up. But you're still not really sure who you are. If you go back and die. So the individuality will stay the same. The consciousness, it's just it's just an instrument. Just an instrument, and this is limited or not. We have still limited consciousness. Demigods have real, much more possibilities. Yeah, they have really much more possibilities. Hare Krishna. More?
Kann ich auf Deutsch was fragen?
Ja, sicher.
Okay. Zu dem Bewusstsein. Du berichtest jetzt aus der philosophischen Sicht oder aus der neurobiologischen Sicht? Das habe ich nicht verstanden. Weil das ist ein allgemeiner Begriff, Bewusstsein. Und das kann jetzt diverse Sichten gedeutet werden.
Ja.
Was ist die Differenzierung da?
Ja. Kann ich auf Englisch antworten?
Wenn es geht auf Deutsch, wenn möglich.
Okay. I will translate the question. So I'm talking. So Prabhu asks. I'm talking about consciousness and from which point of view I'm doing so, neurological, so bioneurological or philosophical. Okay, good question. Thank you very much. I really like this question. Well, I will try to answer this. So first in German. Also meine persönliche Meinung dazu ist die folgende, weil diese bioneurologische Geschichte, nenne ich die jetzt, ist bei weitem nicht die Wahrheit. Ja? Also die Wissenschaftler heutzutage, die nehmen irgendwelche Signale und versuchen diese Signale zu deuten. An die Quelle kommen sie nicht. Ja? An die Quelle kommen sie nicht. Sie wissen nicht, was Bewusstsein ist. Sie schätzen eventuell. Ja? Sie wissen nichts von der Quelle, weil sie eben nichts von der Seele wissen. Ja? Und deswegen sagen die, Bewusstsein hat so viele Facetten, es ist so kompliziert, keiner kann es verstehen. Das ist die Meinung. Das ist heutzutage die Meinung der Wissenschaftler. Wie gesagt, ich habe das schon vorher mal gesagt, es gibt die VW-Stiftung, ja, und die gibt Milliarden von Euros aus, vielleicht auch Millionen, wer weiß, aber richtig viel Geld dafür aus, um zu verstehen, was Leben ist. Ja? Sie haben noch nicht mal einen Schimmer davon, was eigentlich das Leben ist. Darum ist es auch ganz klar, man kann die Seele nicht messen. Man kann die Seele nur sozusagen, man kann nur sehen, was die Seele macht. Die Seele erzeugt ein Bewusstsein. Aber wenn man nichts von der Seele weiß, versteht man nicht das, was das Bewusstsein ist.
Englisch muss
ja, mach ich. Ja. Und deswegen kann man die Seele nur aus der philosophischen Sicht verstehen, beziehungsweise aus der Sicht Krishnas, aus der Sicht der Veden. Ja. Nur so kann man die Seele verstehen. Weil man kann, also wenn man das, also wie gesagt, experimentell ist es unmöglich, das zu beweisen. Also die Existenz, man kann es nicht messen. Punkt. Es ist viel zu klein, also gar nicht materiell. Ich muss jetzt übersetzen. So, the point of the neurobiologists is that they gather informations on the consciousness. Yeah, they gather really lots of different things and different signals. They try to analyze all of the signals and so on, and then they have a certain view what could be the consciousness, but they don't know, because they don't know the origin of consciousness. And we know the origins of consciousness is the soul. But they say, some of them say, there is no soul. Some of them say, maybe there is a soul. But they don't have knowledge about the soul. That's the point. Because, it's like it is. That's why I say also, so from my point of view, so this is my personal opinion on this, that I would argue only with the Vedic scriptures, only with the philosophy, where we have the real information and we have clear picture about the soul. So that the consciousness is the, so to say, the characteristic of the soul. That would be my answer to this. Maybe Jagara Prabhu has different opinion on this.
In Deutsch? Naja, the knowledge comes from the spiritual world. It's called, how to share. It comes from the spiritual world down to us, and we just accept this and follow this, and then we realize that it's truth. This is a different approach. If we experiment on a material level, and then we make experiments, and then we find something out, then we are limited. But the other side is coming down. So we have to have some faith, and then we follow this, and then suddenly we experiment, this is the truth. So this is a different approach. But when we understand the system that comes from the spiritual world, and then we see its truth, then we become more and more faithful, and then we become what's called überzeugt, and we become convinced that it's the real knowledge. So we cannot prove with mechanical, biochemical tests, we cannot prove the soul. We can prove it by following the guru and the instruction.
Maybe also personal experience.
Personal.
Yeah, sure, personal experience. That's why we do it. So without experience, nothing works. So even in science, we have to do experiments to make some experiments to gather knowledge, and the same is for spiritual practice. So we have to do some practical stuff and gather experiments. And this is the only point. So, in my opinion, why we still go on, because it makes sense. It really makes sense. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Okay.
So wenn wir jetzt den Time-Schedule folgen wollen, was wir ja so ein bisschen ist jetzt gut.
So right now we will do Guru Puj. Thanks for listening. Bhagavad Gita ki. Shri Prabhupada ki.